All right, how you doing? What we're going to talk about today is using the prescribed and the scorecard to make it successful for a physical therapist so they can work it forward. The why to that is it's really not to micromanage from a management perspective down to the employee, but for the employee to be able to look at their cases really quick. It's just kind of a sheet or two that they can look at really quick and see kind of what's going on at that time, what's going on in the weeks to come. And if their numbers are falling down low a little bit, what could potentially be contributing to that? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to share my screen here. All righty. And we're going to open up. Okay, so the first thing is we'll just take a look at these two real quick. I'm just going to use, a random one, but here you got the scorecard. And what you're doing with the scorecard is in the yellow one, you're entering in the number from the prescribed, which is the number of active patients you have for the week. Okay. So in this particular scorecard, in the week to come, there's currently 23 active patients because what happens is they're one if they're active, waiting for off. Generally, we added that in there, but that's got to be checked. If it goes much more than a week or so, unless it's a motor vehicle and they're having some issues, then that's kind of a hold. You got holds or medical holds in here, as you will see. Sometimes you'll have a 0, but there's an awful lot of medical holds on here right now. So it's good to dive into those to find out exactly what's going on, to see why they're being held. Trial discharges, they're going to be there if somebody goes on a planned vacation. All right, there's none on here, but they would be a 0 because they wouldn't be. Evals, if these people are coming in this week, okay, which is the 22nd, so they should actually be given ones here because that's going to increase their number up and they can kind of be taken away from there. All right. Discharges, once they get discharged from up here, they get moved down in here and they're given an X. All right. All right. And then on the bottom here, it sums it up and tells the number of active. Completed, non-completed plan of care is done right next to them at discharges. A 1 is meaning they completed their full plan of care. They met the PT's goals. They met the patient's goals. Greater than 85% on their improvement. Greater than, I believe, is 85% on their functional outcome studies. All right, and we discharge them as a group versus the physician discharge them or the patient discharge themselves. 0s is basically they did not meet that criteria, or they dropped out, or they got lost, so they would be a 0. If someone completes and they ended up getting told that they kind of hit a plateau or whatever, and they're not going to progress longer with physical therapy, then they would be a non-complete plan of care. So as you can see, that gets added up on the bottom. Now, PT prescribed, as a person gets scheduled, we put in the prescribed visits, and then we have the visits in the web PT. Now, if a person doesn't cancel, then these numbers are going to be equal. All right. If a person doesn't schedule for the prescribed, then this is going to be less. So you can see cancel, no show. It also could be written here, not scheduled. All right. And then it kind of tracks it up from there. Then what it will do is it'll add it down here, show you how many prescribed are supposed to be for a week. They had cancels and no show of 5, thus the 59. This column in here, the visits and web PT, this is a real important one to fill out. And I've had some kickback and feedback like, oh, I'm going in this, it's kind of frustrating. But in all reality, you shouldn't have any more than 5 cancels in 1 week. If you do, you're going to be well beyond that 92% arrival percentage. So you should only be anywhere from 3 to 5 people that are canceling, okay, in there. So that'll sum up down here, and you get the 59, all right? Then what happens is on your scorecard, I'll pull up a scorecard on here, is these numbers get automatically pulled over. So if we look on here, actual seen Okay, that is the patients that you saw, total number of patients. So that will be your web PT number. Patients seen, that will be the patients that you had on your prescribed. So you can see that visits and web PT were 59 and actual were 59. What is the difference between the two of them? Well, the difference between the two is if you end up covering for another therapist, seeing another therapist patient, then that's going to be an actual scene. All right. So if you see an extra patient or two, that 59 web PT number would go to like 60 or 61, depending on how many you see. If somebody else sees one of your patients, then your actual scene will be lower. Okay. Or your visits in web PT will be lower than your actual prescribed. So if you saw 58 actual, okay, yet, or in this case, 59 actual, but you only saw 58 of them, then it'll get did that way. Hopefully I explained that and I didn't go off a little bit on there. What it also does is, as you can see, is it comes up with your prescribed percentage. See how this says right here, 151%, 191%. That is totally unable to do. And that means somewhere in your list, something is wrong and you got to dive in deeper to find out how can someone have 151% of the prescribed. Some of the numbers were entered. See these right here, 39, 52, 38. They're getting thrown off a little bit, and it could be a formula thing. Yep, here it is right here. See how this formula is for December of 18 to January 27th of 19? Well, this is actually June of 20 to July of 26. So this should alert you if things don't look right that you need to change your formula, okay? That it's going in that direction, because there's no way that that should be the case, all right? Under any circumstances. So we'll get back a little bit, because now what you're going to do is you're going to figure out your average visits per. And you can see on this one we're looking at, it says 1.3, but if you look over at the prescribed, it's 2.4. So once again, there's a formula issue going on there, and the therapist should be reporting that up to somebody. We're going to do a videotape on that and how to fix it yourself, but you can't get accurate data if you're not looking at accurate data. Now, what do you do down here? So we're going to go to scheduling, okay, and we're actually going to go in here and we're going to pull up our productivity report. All right. In the productivity report, this is the week of June 21st, so we're going to pull up that. And we're going to look at, this happens to be Dave, so we're just going to look at Dave's alone. And it's going to show exactly how many visits he's seen, how many cancels he had that particular week. So 59 and 5, so that matches here. So the number would be there. Now what you want to do is you want to do that for every single week. So if we just do this real quick, just to double check, make sure everything on this form is okay. But you also want to do this every Friday. So every Friday you should be running this, and you should be doing it for not only that week, as we see there's 62, and we can look at here, 62, 55, 57. All right, so we'll just double check them. I'm just going to move this over here. And then we're going to get closer. But once you do this and you know it's correct on Friday, you never have to do it again. But what you need to do is you need to do weeks to go forward, because you kind of want to project things out as you go forward. So there's 55. All right. And I think the next one was 57. Let's see what it shows. Oh, there's 70. All right, so let's go back to the prescribed here, 55, 57. So this therapist did not update this. That's the visits and web PT, 70. Now, his prescribed 57, but I know that during this week, there was somebody on vacation. Now, I also know there was one cancel, one no-show, so that wasn't completed. So this therapist on Friday did not complete their form prior to leaving, which they should. What they should also do is be filling out and updating the ones going forward. And as you can see, these two are blank. Okay, these should be updated because this is what basically shows for you to project going forward. So let's take a look at the 19th. See what number that is in there. But see how there's one cancel, one no-show? That's not in there. So there's 53. So we go back in this one, and we should be putting 53 here. So you can see that he's got 54 prescribed, 53. So that's a 98.1% prescribed. Okay. And here, this is looking at advanced scheduling. So 98.1% of the patients are advanced scheduled. Now, this number here, 107, that just seems to be a number that's way off. That's the sum of R3 and R4. Well, that formula is wrong, as you can see, because we only go up to 103. So I'm going to change that formula. And as you can see, it gets it a little bit more in line. That formula is okay there. So now let's go to week of 26 because it's still open. We're going to open that up. And we're going to hit there. And that should be 38 there. So if we look at the prescribed, this number, he's got 38 there. Well, he's got 38 web PT. Oh, that formula's off too. So let's change that around. All right. That is off. Also, he's got 29 prescribed, but he's got 38 web PT. So were there some people on here that haven't been added? You know, if you look in here, you got a lot of people here that don't have numbers in there. And what you want to look at there is scheduled up to date. Okay. And every week you should also be looking at your scheduled up to date. So if you go back to this current week, which is the 19th, all right, or this column, which is the 19th, pretty much everybody should have a date in there. You can see this person here, he's scheduled up to 8/10, but he doesn't have any visits put in there. So he's somebody who's missing being put in. He might have been a new patient was put in here and then just wasn't progressed along there. Once your scheduled up to date goes beyond or in the past, it usually switches to red. Each week you're looking at, like if you're looking at the 7/19 up to 7/26, anybody who's not scheduled beyond 7/26, here's one right here at 7/22. Are they getting discharged, or are they going, or they need their plan of care to be extended? There's another one here, another one here, another one here. You can see it right now. Here's a 7/9. So there's a problem with this one because there's 7/9 here, but they were seen beyond that. So this has not been updated. So this sheet just needs to be updated, which will then change here. Now, what this also shows is when it looks at the particular number, and this number down here to prescribe is only as good as this particular number there as it goes along, okay? But it'll match it up with that 704 number, but it's going to let you know how many people basically are being prescribed, all right, versus the number of patients you have. So I might have to check this formula, but it looks like these numbers have got mixed around a little bit, but that might be supposed to be 105. But if you enter a row in here or subtract a row in here, you mess up all the formulas at the bottom. And unless you manually go back and change them, it's going to stay that way. All right. Scorecard, these should be getting pulled over. All right. And you see how this is blank and that is blank. So for whatever reason, it's not being pulled over. So we may have to go look at and find out why are these not getting pulled over. into it because they are entered there, and it could be because the number is wrong. All right, but we will have to dive into that to find out exactly why it's not getting pulled over. But this tells you right here where it's pulling from. Okay. Um, this actual scene is on nobody else's schedule. This card was messed up. So this actually can be deleted going forward because it shouldn't be there. All right, so we're going to delete that row. But as you can see, it just screwed up all the formulas. So we'll get back up, we'll put it back in, and we're going to have to redo this card because it's a perfect example of a card that gets adjusted versus how it's being used on some other people. Okay, so there's basically what we're looking for, 90% prescribed, over 92% arrival with an over 90% productivity. Okay, average visits per PT is 2.2. So that's going to basically give you the cues, whereas if you're falling low, 2.3, oh, we're only 2.1, 2.0. You know, this is 1.1 right now, but as we can say, we identified. So that's how we utilize the scorecard and the prescribed. We will get this scorecard fixed up a little bit so the therapist can have their data so they can look at it real quick. So it's very much at their fingertips. You can see here we have some minimums. Okay, this row here, that's your goal that you're looking for. That's your average you're looking for, and this pulls it in here. All right, so I hope that helped explaining the use of the prescribed and the scorecard. But the biggest thing I want you to know is if you're in this week, if you're finished this week here on the 12th, you should re-enter that number in, and then you should enter every week before. When you refinish this at the end of the week of the 19th, you should recheck this number, re-enter the correct number, and then do that one. When you get to the new form, you will come down on the bottom and all these will be blank. Well, what you should do is you should pre-fill all these blues in as you go along. Okay? All right, that's what we got. I'm going to switch the screen back here if I can. And get us, here we go. Stop sharing right here. And that's it for today. Thank you.